1991 saw Motorhead release a critically and commercially acclaimed album, the mighty 1916. I've already reviewed that one, and they were signed. That was on Sony, or a subsidiary. I think that's a word, of Sony, and things were really looking up for them. Then the next year was March or Die, which didn't meet with anything like similar success. Filthy Animal had left, having trouble problems, etc. And Motorhead's luck once again was bad. Um, so in 1993, they'd been thrown off or quit Sony, or something had happened. I think the label they were on, the label that was owned by Sony, it was winding down all the time. Eventually just sort of petered out, and once again Motorhead were without a record label. It was back to the dark days of the late 80s when Motorhead were really struggling. But they soldiered on, as Motorhead always did, and they got picked up just for their release of this album, The Bastards. They got picked up by ZYX Music, which is a German label, or was it? ZYX Music was a German label known primarily for like dancing techno and stuff. And somehow Motorhead came across them, or they came across Motorhead, and they offered Motorhead $500,000. So Motorhead like, okay, thanks. And they at once set about recording Bastards. It was the first Motorhead album not to be named after one of its tracks. Lemmy said it basically reflected the way they were feeling at the time, much as Lemmy was going to call Motorhead Bastard when he first got chucked out of Hawkwind, because he was so pissed off. They were so pissed off of the way, what had seemed so promising at the start of the decade had once again gone to crap. But anyway, like I say, they soldiered on, and they were determined that this album, Bastards, was going to see a revival in their fortunes once again. So what to say about it? It's a fantastic album. It's a really good album. Starts at On Your Feet or On Your Knees. That song, they did a really good version of it on the 1999 live album, Everything Louder Than Everything Else. The gig was actually recorded in May 1998 in Germany, Hamburg, I believe. Yes, Hamburg. And especially for that record, they knew it was being taped to be released as a live album. So the third song in, they did the Iron Fist and the Stay Clean combination, which they commonly open shows with, and then bang into On Your Feet or On Your Knees, and supremely powerful song. And the lyrics just Lemmy railing against human stupidity, basically. There can't be any doubt about it. You humans ain't got no brains, think you're better, but you're all the same, and all this sort of thing. Human stupidity and general stupidity being one of his great themes in his lyrics. Straight into number 2, Burner. I saw them do this one live way back when I think it was 95, first time I saw them. And I still remember Lemmy saying this is the fastest song ever fucking wrote. And it went into Burner. Death or Glory, I Am the Sword. Again, Lemmy, another one of his great themes, sort of all things military. And 5, Born to Raise Hell, which of course went onto the soundtrack of Airheads, and with they cut out a bit of the guitar, one of those guitar styles, but most notably Ice-T and Whitfield Crane overdubbed their vocals on parts of it, and it's that version of Born to Raise Hell I like the most. I really like the kind of the gravelly, Lemmy's voice, of course, gravelly, the real rock and roll mixing with sort of Ice-T's sort of rap chants and stuff. I'm not a massive fan of rap, but it seemed to really work on that track for me. It really, when he gets to me, it's really good. Number 6, Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me. Very, I don't know what disturbing lyrics, obviously, about child abuse. Yeah, that lyrics aside, just the actual structure of the song with the acoustic, I think it was one of these that it started to, maybe the drip drip thing on Wurzel, but one of his dissatisfactions. I saw an interview from the following year. It's on YouTube, 94. And he's saying, why do we have to have these acoustic songs in the set? We didn't have them till we did, what was the song of Ozzy Osbourne? I Ain't No Nice Guy, for March or Die. And I think Lemmy thought maybe they stick an acousticy one. I mean, I know, Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me goes heavy, like did I Ain't No Nice Guy. But I think Lemmy thought if he varied it a bit more, they'd have more chance of the American market. Possibly. I mean, Lemmy was obviously never one to follow anything like, well, state the bleeding obvious, never one to follow trends. But he did have his mind on the American market. I mean, he wasn't an idiot. He saw the money that could be made. He saw well, like Ozzy Osbourne had done, who was very much one of Lemmy's contemporaries. And I've said before, at one point at Port Vale Football Club, 81, the Heavy Metal Holocaust, I believe it was called, Lemmy Motörhead headlined over Ozzy Osbourne. So Lemmy had been at the top of the tree before, at least in England, and he could see what the States had to offer. So he thought maybe if I do some, more acousticy type stuff, that'd give him more of a chance, I believe. And he said he offered this one. I think Joan Jett was one. A couple of female sort of singer-songwriters or famous musicians, because he thought it should be done by a female, but they passed, so he did it. But yeah, quite a disturbing song, that one. Number 7, Bad. Yeah, but just so much. Yes, so Wurzel. So Wurzel said that going back to the acoustic thing. Wurzel said he had nothing in this interview I saw. He said, I don't have anything to do with playing acoustics. That's down to Phil Campbell, and I just do the heavy stuff. Because Wurzel was definitely, as Mickey D said, Wurzel was the riffmeister. I mean, he wrote the real crunchy, heavy riffs. He was, that side of Motörhead, And right, so after that one, we've got Bad Woman, which is, as Lemmy accurately summarised it, I think he said in my Chuck Berry or Little Richard obsession, it's a 12-bar boogie. A lot of Motörhead albums have them, one way or the other. Liar. Love that track so much. And again, I saw him do this one live, and I remember Lemmy introducing this one. He said this song is dedicated to politicians worldwide. Really good. It's got that brilliant, that middle bit. It's got a sort of backwards guitar. So that was a terrible impression of a backwards guitar then. But that really sort of tight, that really tight kind of bass and drum thing. It shows how rhythmically sharp Lemmy was. Just a great song, a great riff, great lyrics. Don't show your teeth to me, I'll pull your teeth and feed you with them. Count on me, and stuff. Yeah, he was. He had no time for politicians, Lemmy. I think it's fair to say. Lost in the Ozone, another soft heavy type track. Really kind of Lemmy doing his, I don't know, last man alive on an alien world or something. I'm adrift on a hungry empty sea. Really great lyrics. Quite sort of abstract, floaty. Yeah, other way he could sort of lose himself in a song. I always said I thought, well, there were short stories in a way, these songs, but I thought he would have made a really good short story writer, Lemmy. I'm Your Man. Yeah, good time boogie, that one. Good stomp. Can't see me give a damn Motörhead. He managed to get his own song in that one. 11, We Bring the Shake. Another great song. Why am I saying like that? Reason being, I don't know. When I listen to songs, I always remember driving in the car with this one. I think one of the first few times I heard it, got a tape. I put it on and it was a perfectly blue sky. And it's just, that really bright, shimmery sound. And then these kind of double track vocals. Also quite funny in places. I think he runs out of words. He doesn't. He runs out of words to rhyme with shake, and at the end is reduced saying, "We bring the shake for goodness sake." So yeah, but top track. And then to sort of round off this really excellent album is really good production. I'll just put that one in. Really good production. Really bright. Is Devils. I mean, what a track. And Lemmy, it's called Devils, and he says Devils in my head today. I can't make them go away and stuff, which makes it sound quite sinister. But then, Angels in my heart tonight, the refrain at the end. And a great riff and a good use of the two guitars, one holding the chords, these crunchy chords underneath the riff. And I've got the two guitar thing of Motörhead a lot. I mean, a lot of the time they're just playing. Someone said, kind of having two guitars in Motörhead was a bit like having tits on a ball, because it was a lot of they're just playing the same chords or just doubling the same riff. But on tracks like Devils, they play two different things. So it was good use of the two guitars. And a reissue, 8 years later, 2001, they did a cover of Jumping Jack Flash by the Stones. So right, don't know. I suppose having fun, you know. I didn't get a lot of when Motorhead covered songs. I said this in other reviews, but like they did God Save the Queen for We Are Motorhead and stuff. I just, you know, why? Cat Scratch Fever and stuff. Motorhead's material was so great. I don't think they needed to do covers really, in my opinion. So we're talking about Wurzel earlier, and Lemmy has said in his autobiography White Line Fever, he kind of considered both Wurzel and Lemmy, sadly no longer being with us. Excuse me as I move this cup. Just want to put my feet out. Lemmy considered this to be Wurzel's last album, even though he played on Sacrifice. And I'll do another review on Sacrifice. I don't want to talk about it too much, but it's odd because Sacrifice is so heavy that I kind of consider this to be like a Wurzel album. It sounds like how Wurzel would want it to be. But Lemmy said he obviously he was leaving the band throughout Sacrifice. It wasn't really committed or anything, and so he considered Bastards to be Wurzel's last album. It was the last Motorhead album sort of Wurzel was really into and stuff. Even though arguably, you know, he didn't care for two of the songs, the Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me and Lost in the Ozone. What else is to say? Well, the main thing to say, sadly, was how this album just got lost. So, what ZYE or ZYX Music, right? So somehow this kind of obscure German record label, you know, primarily known, like I say, for techno music in the early 90s. I don't know what was that, you know, Vega Boys or something, but they give Motorhead like $500,000, which to Motorhead was serious money. And there's still that story when Lemmy first moved to LA at the start of the 90s, he had $500, or the equivalent thereof in pounds sterling. He had $500 left in his bank account. Motorhead were that badly off. Like, considering they were at the worst, they were having to do club gigs for $300 a night. I mean, it wasn't enough to pay, you know, all the band and crew or that, you know. But suddenly here's an album after they've been more or less chucked off Sega, and their last album, The March or Die, was a critical and commercial failure. Here's a record label wants to give them £500,000. So they've recorded this great album, and they'll be able to buy a decent time, good producer on it, Howard Benson, really great album. And they say to ZYX, well, give us whatever 50 CDs to start with. We'll do the mail shots to DJs, and we'll start getting a buzz going in and get it played on air. So ZYX like, can't do that, man. You know, we've got no money for that. They're like, what are you talking about? You're just giving us $500,000 to make the thing, and now you're saying there's no money to promote it. They were like, yeah, exactly. And they generally, a record company, you know, you get behind, you've got plugging in promotions department, they'd get it out there, they'd have the contacts, they'd be making the call. Venture, I think it's almost a case of Lemmy and the bandmates were sitting on a phone trying to ring DJ Zainu to get him to play it, and Lemmy just said it was a complete disaster. Plus, you couldn't get the CD. It was really hard to get outside of Germany. And ZYX, their distribution network, didn't much extend beyond Germany. So I still remember when I started collecting these things at the start of the 2000s. That would have been out 2001. There was still stuff like Bastards and Overnight Sensation were really hard to get hold of still then. So it just disappeared. And Lemmy, and again in his autobiography, he just said, well, we had to get back out on tour. We had to bring the songs to the punters that way. But he said it was just such a massive disappointment. And it was, because it's definitely one of Motorhead's strongest albums. Really good album. Really funny video for Burner, actually. Yeah, if you see it, it's kind of slightly cheesy, but still like really cool because it's Motorhead. Yeah, so well, that was the Bastards. Once again, Motorhead, and first full album with Mickey D, the new boy, who, depending on who you heard it from, was still like on loan or something. And according to Lemmy and that, he was well into the band. But some people say he was still on loan or still trying it out or something. But he powers that whole album. So once again, Motorhead snatching something great out of the jaws of defeat, or whatever the phrase is. But when everything looks like it's gone to shit again, they managed to get something out of it. Sadly, they couldn't follow it through. I think if this had a proper distribution and stuff, it would have done them a lot of favours like 1916 did, but it didn't. So once again, they were having to hit the road and just tour, tour, tour.